this mean it's over?
Does this mean he likes me?
Are butterflies good?
Am I ever gonna meet someone?
I'm tired of swiping.
Am I normal?
What did you learn about yourself in that time? What new revelations came to the surface? You can keep waiting for the fairy tale, or you can get on board with the new rules of relationships. If you read my advice in the LA Times, then you know this ain't your mama's love advice. This is Dates and Mates with Damona Hoffman. Hello, lovers, and welcome to another insightful episode of Dates and Mates. As I prepare to launch my fall programs, I've been reflecting on all of my time as a coach. And I mean, all of my time, like over 18 years. It's kind of crazy to think about how long I've been in the online dating game. And I know like every celebrity and every expert seems to have a coaching program these days, but I really believe that the Dates and Mates method is different. Of course, the naysayers will say, but Damona, you're married. What could you possibly know about dating today? Well, today I'm going to give you an inside look at how I am on the pulse of what's happening in today's dating scene. In addition to researching this topic, this is what I live and breathe. I read all of the articles and studies on dating all day long for you. I'm also talking to hundreds of daters every year in my Dear Damona segment on this show, on the Drew Barrymore show, where I am her official love expert in the Drew Crew, in my Love Shack and Date Night with Damona segments on Access Daily with Mario Lopez. I'm out at conferences. I'm at corporate events. I am even on the street. Like literally people walk up to me on the street and tell me their dating woes. And folks often ask me, is that okay? Do you want to talk about dating? And the answer is yes, I do. All the time. I want to talk about dating and relationships. And even in those small moments, I like to give quick tips and takeaways to help people change their perspective on dating and relationships. But my deepest work, it really comes in the coaching that I do with clients. I'm helping singles to identify their dating loops and myths that are holding them back in love. And today, I'm taking you behind the curtain with a sneak peek into a private coaching session with one of our listeners. Now, let me tell you, it is a very brave thing for someone to say, I am willing to do a coaching session with you, Damona, and also to do it on the Dates and Mates podcast, because I think what I'm going through might relate to other listeners, and I want to help myself and thereby also help other people. So I encourage you to listen with compassion, but also listen for connections. Listen to what you might be able to take and apply into your own dating life. And I will be popping in periodically to give you some quick tips and takeaways that you can then apply right away to your own dating dilemmas. So without further ado, I introduce to you our Dates and Mates listener and my client for the day, Staci.
Hi, Damona.
I'm so happy to have you here. And you said that you listen to the podcast, right?
I'm totally fangirling right now. So I read your book and I've listened to your podcast. I love how kind you are and also how blunt. I feel like you have this like perfect between those two outliers just to bring it in. So it feels warm and fuzzy and also truthful. So
Thank you. That is actually my goal. Not to be blunt, but my goal is to help people transform. And I think sometimes we need a little bit of tough love and a little bit of comfort. So that's always how I try to deliver my message from that place. So we're doing a session today. And first, before we even get into your story, I just want to ask you, what do you hope to get out of the session today?
So I think I hope to get some clarity and maybe to identify blocks that I'm creating that maybe I'm making bigger than they need to be.
Hmm. So, how do you want to feel at the end of our time together?
Inspired and maybe just peace to move forward with dating.
Peace. That's a good one. That's a good one. I don't hear that very often. I can definitely do the inspired thing, but I do hope to bring you peace because I know that the dating landscape today is not peaceful, right? You wrote in to be considered for this coaching session, and you talked about a lot of ghosting situations or constant messaging that didn't actually materialize into first dates. Can you tell us a little bit about that and just your overall where you're coming to dating from right now?
Yeah. So I've been divorced 11 years, and during that time, I've had relationships, some lasting as long as a year and a half or 3 years on and off. And I actually feel like the first half of can I call it a dating career? My dating career in my 11 years. So like the first half feels like it was good. Even maybe like up to maybe 3 or 4 years ago, maybe a couple
Hmm.
years ago. It just felt good. Like even though the relationship didn't transpire, I feel like I made good friendships. I learned a lot from people. It was something fun to do. But I feel this change. And I don't know, I just turned 50. And I don't know if it's just entering this stage of my life where I'm just in a different spot and really have done a lot of personal development. Now going on a dating app feels like I'm ordering something from Amazon, like I'm looking at the picture and reading to the description and then picking it up at a coffee shop. That's what it feels like to me, and it doesn't feel great. And I've done my own personal like mindset stuff to help with this, like instead of just swiping on people, I'll like swiping left on people like a no, I'll be like I wish in my mind, I wish you well. And I just have to say at this point, I no longer feel like I'm connecting with dating apps anymore. It just doesn't feel good anymore.
I have listeners ranging in age from 20s to 50 plus. And while the dating scene is different across generations, there is a common thread here. Something that I'm hearing from a lot of you. Something that I addressed last week, actually. Dating burnout, and burnout especially surrounding the dating apps. And regardless of your age, any dater can be affected. But these things get really interesting when you can dig down to the root of your dating burnout and relationship with the apps to look for solutions instead of staying in that crappy feeling, like Staci was saying. Okay. Thank you for sharing your dating career with us. I want to unpack a lot of things in that. Um, First, you mentioned that you had a few relationships in that time in the last 11 years since your divorce. Where did you meet those people?
Dating apps, most of them dating apps. Some of them, or a couple of them were like reached out to me on Facebook. We were somehow friends on Facebook, or they friend requested me on Facebook. But most of them, I would say, dating apps.
There was a slight pause before you answered me. How come?
Because I really had to think, did I always meet the people I dated from a dating app? Yes.
Okay. I wanted to make sure it was a thinking pause and not coming from an emotional response pause.
No, it was a thinking,
Okay.
yeah.
It's interesting the timeline that you brought up. The last 3 to 4 years, it started to feel different. I'm thinking of the timeline that we are in right now and how there was another big thing that was happening in the last 3 to 4 years, the pandemic, right? Do you feel like something shifted with dating apps during that time? Do you feel like something shifted within you during that time in the pandemic?
I don't know. I don't know, but I definitely felt internally a difference since like 2022.
I like to get underneath and I don't know, Stacy. So, if you were going to put yourself back in that time, around 2021, 2022, 2023, what were you coming to terms with about yourself? What did you learn about yourself in that time? What new revelations came to the surface?
I think I've become more and more comfortable with who I am and celebrating that. And so, whereas before, I think with dating, especially earlier on in dating, it was uh, how can I make sure that other person's comfortable? How can I right? It was always making sure the other person. So I always got offered second dates, of course, because I was making it great for the other person. And I think the last 2 years, I've had a lot of like clarification in how I want to feel. I used to have this list of like, here's all the things a guy should have. And now it's more like, how do I want to feel? And I've really like fine tuned those feelings within myself. And so that has been a major shift. Am I feeling this on the date? Am I feeling safe? Am I feeling relaxed? Am I feeling seen and heard? Am I feeling cherished and provided for? And if I'm not feeling it, why go on, right? So I feel like I've fine-tuned how I want to feel, and I think that has changed within me.
Whew, sister, that is huge. Like to have that realization and to really step into your own power in dating. I mean, obviously, you said you read F the Fairy Tale. You probably noticed some similarities in what you just said and what I was talking about in that book of getting into the feeling of how you want to feel in dating and looking for that feeling to be repeated. And then also really taking control of your dating destiny. And sometimes in that process, as you're taking control, to make space for something new, to make space for a different way of interacting, something has to be given up. Something has to be lost, right? To create that
Mhm.
space. So let's drill down a little bit into, I don't want to get too into the weeds of dating apps because I feel like sometimes people sometimes I'll hear from listeners that they're frustrated with dating apps, that dating apps are the problem, and that there's nobody they want to meet on dating apps, or the issue, they don't want to pay for the dating apps. The issue is the dating app. But when we really get underneath it, the dating app is just the tool, right? It's just how we use the tool to be able to meet our needs. So when your process, when you're on, let's say when you were on Bumble and you're swiping and you're swiping left and you're saying good luck, think and release. And then you swipe right on someone and you say yes to that person. Talk me through the process of what usually happens from that point forward.
Okay, that's a fair question. It's been a little bit, but normally if I match, because now with Bumble, which I know you know, but the change is either person can make the first contact, whereas I never was on it before because I didn't want to be the first person to make the contact.
Did you listen to my episode about the Bumble
Wah, wah,
update?
wah.
I obviously have feelings. I will set them aside right now. But so you like the ability for them to send you to respond to your opening move first.
I do. Or once we match, I like when they make the first move, the first comment, the first question. And I know they're like when you're in Bumble, there's all these like things like if they want to connect, what question do you want them to answer? So like that's there as well. But overall, it's I want them to make the first move. Yeah.
Why?
It feels like I'm not chasing and grabby. And I feel like with my own dating experience, when I get chasey or grabby, I start to lose myself a little bit. And so it's my own like red flags to myself or like to take a step back and just allow some flow to happen as opposed to this like chase or grabby feel.
Thank you for clarifying that because a lot of times I'll hear that it's a story that we're attached to of who is supposed to make the first move, how it's supposed to play out, that I think is to the detriment of a lot of women, because I do find when you switch to that place of I am not getting chosen, I am choosing, it does require you to be sort of co-leading the courtship process as opposed to being in a place of just receiving. But from what you're saying, it's more about how it shows up for you. How it makes you feel and what it ignites within you when you're in that place of initiating. Is that right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay. So I think that's a really valuable observation. And I definitely don't want you to get chasey or grabby. TM Stacy on the chasey or grabby. So we don't want to be chasey or grabby. But we do want to optimize your options and put you in the driver's seat of your dating life as well. And I also find, just realistically speaking, um, first of all, you said you just turned 50. I'm gonna have to check your ID or something because I'm not buying it, but I'll take you at your word. Friends, I'm gonna level with you. I hear a lot from women who say men always want to date younger women. It's simply not true. If he finds you attractive, he's not going to care about your age. But here's the reality. The reality is that the search process, it does change over 50 because you're not coming up in their queue if they happen to select a younger age range. But we're not necessarily going to rule them out because they have fallen into the societal expectations that they should be dating younger. You hear what I'm saying? You also have to consider there are simply fewer available people for you over 40 or 50 or 60. And it doesn't mean that your person isn't out there. They are. But we just have to adjust the way we use dating apps to give ourselves the best chance at success, even if, statistically speaking, the odds aren't in our favor. But you can beat the odds because I'm dealing this round. And let's face it, the house always wins. So it sounds like your profile is optimized. If you're getting the matches and you're using, the premium Bumble and you can see the beeline of who likes you, then it's a matter of how do we get from the match to the actual date. And you were saying in your email that a lot of the conversations don't actually materialize into first dates. So what's going on in that gap?
I think what happens so much with me with dating apps is, and I know I'm showing up in this energy where I am already exhausted from having conversations with people that lead kind of nowhere. So there's a few that do. There's a few. So bravo to the guys who take it, let's grab coffee or let's grab lunch. But so many times it's these, how are you? Fine. How are you? Right. And so it's like, so I've just started asking, or I did when I was on the apps, like, tell me the best thing that's happened to you today. So I've just tried to change it a little bit. But even then, even if they're like, great question, this is it. How about you? And then I'll answer. And then it still kind of dies. So I guess in the form of ghosting, not ghosting, I've only been stood up once for a date, but I mean ghosting like it starts the conversation and then poof, it just doesn't go anywhere. So that's what I'm personally seeing more and more in my experience on the apps.
You said the buzzword. You said the word of the day. You said exhausted. You said already exhausted from the conversation. You saw in F the Fairy Tale, I call it the texting trap because it's this false sense of intimacy. We think we're connecting and yet we're really just wasting each other's time because if the intent is not there behind it, it just becomes another message in the queue. So I want to, assuming that at some point you will go back to the dating apps, and we'll talk about the strategy at the end of the session. But uh, if or when you return to the dating apps, I want to really develop a strategy for that texting trap. I love the energy that you bring with like, tell me the best thing about your day. I wonder if you would get more connection if you started it out with, there's a formula that I've talked about on the show before, comment plus question. So it's a reaction to something in their profile and then a follow-up question that requires more than a yes no response. I find that gets us to connection because that's what
Mhm.
everybody is so starved for right now. We have plenty of conversation. Everyone's talking and nobody's saying anything
Mm.
because we're missing that connection piece. So I would offer that to you to escape from this texting trap. And it is a trap. It is a false sense of intimacy. But to see if we can get I love your idea of not falling into the like, hey, beautiful, how was your day? Good morning. The canned responses, and getting beyond that into the context of their day. But I wonder what would happen if you started it out from a place of something that they're already interested in. And that to me really elevates the conversation too, because a lot of what I hear around dating apps is like, it's all just based on the physical, and nobody really wants to engage. It's a hot or not contest, and it's all about your photos, which is partially true, and why it's important for us to get beyond that physical response and get to the point of an emotional response that we're having and that we're also igniting within others. Does that
Mm.
make sense?
Yeah, it does.
And does that feel like it might change the trajectory? Just thinking back on some of those, I'm sure you have a couple of matches that you were like, it seemed like this person seemed like they had so much potential, and on paper they seemed to work, but then you just couldn't get the couldn't get the car out of the driveway. You started it up and it just wouldn't go. Right. So if
Yeah,
you think
yeah.
about those just for a moment, kind of think back to one of those connections, one of those conversations, I should say, and think if you led with connection, or if they led with connection, how much deeper the conversation could have gone, or how much more quickly the connection could have developed. Right.
Yeah.
So I'd love for you to try that the next time that you're in the texting trap. And the texting trap can happen anywhere. Like, it can happen on a dating app. You'd said that some of your matches came from Facebook. I keep telling people it's going down in the DMs. It's
Yes.
going down in the DMs. But it's really developed as a skill set that we need to have to get to the date, that digital flirtation. But I
Mm.
almost want to take it a step further into like digital connection. It sounds like that's really what you're craving, is the connection.
It is because I don't have a clue how to digitally flirt. Like, that skill set is not in my body.
Dating is a skill set, so it's useful to develop a growth mindset around the areas you're not good at. That's the definition of a growth mindset, that we don't come ready-made with all the skills we need in life. With practice, learning, and effort, we can get better. Look, I'm not a strong swimmer, but if I practice and I keep jumping in the deep end, I know I can get better. I mean, I haven't yet, but I know it's something that I could. I mean, I haven't yet, but it's something I could do. So maybe like Staci, you're not great at digital flirting, but you can approach it with a dating growth mindset so that you can improve at it with some training and focus and a little bit of getting your feet wet in the deep end.
So yeah, maybe it's the approach. Maybe it's the comment and question approach is a better way to go.
Yeah, and I just have to comment also on that energy, the already exhausted energy that, ugh. If you're feeling it, Staci, just imagine how much they're feeling it too, and it's contagious. It's funny, if we started out talking about the pandemic, I'm like, it's contagious, but it really is. It is. We start from a place of like, we're already exhausted and we're like, I don't even want to be here. I can't believe I have to do this. I don't really have the emotional bandwidth to deal with this disappointment again. And we almost then set ourselves up to receive that back and then to keep playing that script again and again. So you have the power, Staci, to change that dynamic. But I also think it's important not to engage from a place of when you're in that emotional state, because it's going to come through. If you're in the exhausted state, it's going to come through in your interactions. And I know sometimes it's at odds. People will hear like the momentum, like it's important to get the momentum up and that the response time is really important, but not at the expense of your emotional well-being, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's step away from dating apps and talk about
Yay.
dating in the larger world. I could feel it, Stacy. What are you doing for your offline dating career?
So I work remotely. So obviously, I'm right now in my beautiful study. So I'm not dating my dog or my daughter. So when I go places, I do a lot of solo travel, and I do get on the apps when I solo travel because I like to meet people in different places. I like to get travel tips from the area I'm at. I like to go on hikes or grab coffee or whatever with people where I'm traveling. I teach fitness classes and I'm not going to date my students. And so there's really outside of I'm not a bar girl, I don't drink. And so to go hang out in a bar doesn't really fit me and doesn't fit kind of the life I want to live. So I'm not going to go hang out at a bar. So I'm doing all these new experiences. Like I went fencing on Sunday, which I will die in the medieval times. But like because there's people and it was fun and there's no one I would have dated there, but it was still being out into new experiences and being open to it. So I think two things. I don't know really where to go to meet people without it feeling like I'm on a hunt. I don't want to feel like I'm on a hunt, but I want to be open, right? And then also I want to make sure that yeah, it's stuff I like to do.
Yeah, always. It should always be something that you are getting value out of anyway. Have you looked into any specifically singles events in your area?
Yeah, a couple years ago, I joined like a singles group. I live in the Dallas area. And so I joined like a Dallas singles group. And I met a lot of really great girlfriends from that group. But all the activities, or I'd say 95% of the activities, took place at a bar. And it's just not my scene. And so it just didn't fit me. It didn't fit the life I want to live. And so that I tried. I guess I'll just put a period at the end of that sentence. That I tried.
I was like, is there more? Um, okay, so I'm going to back up a little bit because usually if we were beginning a coaching program, we always start with mindset as you read in the book. So talk to me about the person that you want to meet. How much clarity do you have on who that person is?
So I write affirmations every morning. And one of the
Ooh.
affirmations I write every day is exactly about who the person I want to meet and how I'll feel when I'm in that relationship. So I feel like I have clarity more so, like, honestly, this is weird. I mean, I used to care about like he had to have hair, he had to be so tall. I don't really care about that. I just have to be attracted to the person. It's like, how am I going to feel when I'm with this person? And so when I'm doing these affirmations in the morning, it's I feel because I'm like saying it like it's already happening, right? So like
Right.
I feel and then I list out what those are. And so that's what I'm hoping for and looking for.
Well, we want to hear Stacy's deepest, darkest affirmations, right? I mean, I do. But first, I want to ask you, have you thought about who you are looking for and how you want to feel when you're around them? Beyond the list, what are the core qualities and values that you actually need in a partner? Have you been dating from that perspective? Or have you been checking boxes that might not even correlate to your current needs? Think about it. In the meantime, a quick message from our sponsors, and then back to the session and Stacy's deep, dark, secret affirmation. Can you share with us?
Uh, can you share your deepest, darkest affirmation you write every morning for the world? Okay.
Wait, but hold on. Before we go into, first of all, I love the affirmations. I highly recommend all of my listeners and clients do affirmations and have mantras I talk about in the book, having mantras that affirm what you are attracting in and what you want. But the reason I'm pushing you on this, because I don't think it shouldn't be your deepest, darkest. Because to me, when I hear that, Stacy, I hear I hear like a sense of like embarrassment that it's something that um that you feel like you need to hide away the relationship that you really want to attract and the person that you want to attract. Whereas I feel like that should be something that like that's your magnet, right? That's your magnet. That's the thing that's attracting other people in. That's the thing that helps other people magnetize the right person to you as well, because we want to engage our whole community in supporting us
Hmm.
in bringing that person in. So I I really hope that in sharing this, like I'm not trying to make you feel uncomfortable with it, but I hope in sharing it 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 feels expansive. It feels like it's not just an affirmation for you internally. It's like a call out to that person in the world.
That was a good call out for me, right? Just to have that realization of like, I don't have to keep it a secret, right? So I
Mhm.
appreciate you calling that out of me. Because I know what it says, but yeah, you're right. It's part of being magnetizing to it. It's just like owning it, right?
Mhm.
So I say I'm with the man of my dreams in a relationship that I always hope for. I feel seen, heard, connected, cherished, relaxed, and provided for. We laugh and build a beautiful life together every day.
Mhm. I love that. And I feel that. I felt that, Stacy. I really felt that.
Thank you.
Have you ever shared that affirmation with anyone else?
Not on a recorded line, Damona.
I have that effect on people. But have you shared it with friends, with your daughter, with
Yeah,
family?
with
Mhm.
close
Mhm.
friends. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Now, when we think about this person who makes you feel seen, heard, and connected, and makes you laugh and provides for you and makes you feel relaxed and all these beautiful things. If you were to paint a picture of where what would be important to this person? How would they live their life? Where would they be?
I feel like they will have progressed through something in life and gotten on the other side of it so that they have a strength that always only comes really through challenges. I feel like a lot of this comes from that. I don't know where I would find them as far as like a location, but yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I'm not sure where would they be?
What would be important to them? Like how for example, like if someone said to me that they wanted to meet somebody who really cared about other people and was passionate about making the world a better place, I might suggest that they go to a particular charity event or a
Mm.
meetup around a certain cause. So, when we think about this person, can you visualize what is important to them?
I guess being like my whole career is like in the health and wellness space. And I feel like people who are in that kind of good mindset are moving their bodies, like they're happier because they're moving. So maybe somebody at the gym, just not in my class.
Okay. Someone at the gym.
Or at any type of event, maybe a walk, maybe even a charity walk, or
Have you ever I think I talked about this on the show before. The running clubs are like the new dating apps. Do you run?
really?
Yes. Do you run?
I don't, but maybe I need to start.
I mean, I'm not gonna tell you what kind of fitness goals you should set. You've already got that pretty well covered. But that is what I'm hearing a lot from the dating streets, that run clubs are the new dating apps and that people go running and then meet up afterwards for hangouts, cookouts, sometimes bars,
Hmm.
but you'll skip that part. But I would think about, yeah, some other fitness activities, since that is such a big part of your life as well. Fitness activities that you can do in groups.
Hmm.
So I agree with you that your own gym is not the best place to start a relationship necessarily. Just it makes it more complicated because that is your livelihood and where you spend the most time probably apart from at home, but it is then we play the relationship forward all the way down the road and it gets complicated sometimes. So, but that said, I would say one, how can you show up differently in the places you already are, like work? Um, even, with your friend circles and the other activities that you do with those nearest and dearest to you. How can you show up differently in those spaces? And then also, how can you show up in different spaces that you haven't been in yet and seek out new opportunities um, that don't have to be inspired. Like like you mentioned that you go on dating apps only when you travel because that's when you're like, "Oh, I'm forced to. I'm forced to make friends." So how can we adopt that mentality in your regular life? I'm not saying go on the dating apps. I'm just saying adopt that mentality of I'm seeking connection, right? And I'm seeking this person that makes me feel seen, heard, and connected. And listener, I ask you the same. Now that you've considered who you are looking for, where can you find them? Are they artsy? Are they a sports fan, a hiker, a pool player, a museum goer? What spaces can you visit to put yourself in the orbit of your potential matches? Okay, back to Staci. So how could you show up, first of all, differently in the spaces you're already in?
Well, I don't really know how to flirt. I'm very friendly, but I don't know how to actually like guys always tell me, I didn't know you were interested in me. I thought you were just friendly, being nice to me. And I'm always like, oh, because I realize I have totally lost that skill set. I'm not sure how to be flirty in person. I just know how to be friendly because I like to be friendly to everyone. So I don't know how to differentiate like how do I flirt? So maybe that's how I could show up differently is learning a skill set of how to flirt more to send the messages out a little clearer. That would maybe be something to work on.
For sure, that's something to work on. And I believe that flirting, as most dating skills, can be improved. And it is something I'm like, maybe I should do a flirting class.
Yes, please.
But the simple formula is you've probably heard this one before, but I'll remind you the set it up formula: smile, eye contact, touch. Now, smile is the one where it could go either way, right? If you're friendly, you'll smile. But smile is an invitation. And then if you are looking like you're having fun, then other people are attracted to you and want to have fun with you because they want to be smiling too. Eye contact, and this is they're kind of in order of intensity, of flirting intensity. So the kind of eye contact that you have when you're talking to someone platonic and you're offering kindness and compassion is different than the kind of eye contact you have when you're trying to send a flirtatious message, right? So I if we were working together on an ongoing basis, I would actually role play this with you. And Yogi Marquise, my head of coaching, would we use improv to help people get more comfortable because it feels weird, right? It feels weird when you're practicing it in when you're on a date and you're like, it's like Hitch, like have you ever seen that movie?
Yes.
Trying to like learn how to be cool and flirtatious. But I find that when you practice it in a situation like in a session, it actually makes it easier for you to do it when you get out into the world. And you really can practice it, Staci, out in the world. So I'm going to give you a challenge actually to practice that flirtatious eye contact. So, it's holding eye contact a little bit longer than you normally would if you were just being friendly, Staci. It's holding eye contact a little longer than looking away and then looking back. And I want you to
Okay.
practice it. I want you
Okay.
to practice it maybe at the gym but not in your class, not with people in your class, or maybe at the grocery store. But when you are out and about, I want you to practice the eye contact, the flirtatious eye contact, not like you're trying to create an outcome, because that's just where we get stopped up. This is where we stop ourselves from doing the thing that we do naturally know how to do. But then we get uncomfortable, and then we get embarrassed, and we don't want to look stupid, right? So if you give yourself a challenge, like, I'm just doing this as an exercise, and you completely separate yourself from the outcome. The outcome is not, I'm going to get a date. The outcome is, I'm going to get a reaction. I'm going to see how, when I change the way that I show up, I get a different response from the person across from me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Can you do that challenge?
I accept. I accept the
Yay.
challenge. Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a week. For the next week, I want you to practice the flirtatious eye contact. And then the last one of the set it up flirtation method is touch. And this one is very powerful. So we use this sparingly. And this is when you kind of want to seal the deal. This is when you're like, oh, I've done the eye contact thing. And they're looking at you like, wait, is she looking at me? Is this a moment? I thought she was being friendly, but hold on. The vibe just totally changed. And then you playfully put your hand on their shoulder, their hand, their arm, somewhere in a safe zone, not like on their thigh or whatever, unless you want to have a date right then, but on a safe zone. Because, and think of it this way also, Staci, particularly men, most men, especially a man over 40, over 50, they're not touched very often. What happens when you greet your girlfriends? You're going out for coffee with a girlfriend. What do you do? How do you greet them?
We give them hugs. Yeah. Definitely
Right.
hugs.
Right. So we get that affection. I would imagine you and your daughter are probably affectionate to one another. We have touch in our lives, but it's not socially acceptable for men. Like, it's very cute. My husband, actually, when he's on the phone with his best friends, they say I love you when they hang up. It's the
Oh,
cutest thing I've ever
that's
seen.
so cute.
It's
Yes.
only with these three guys, but I'm like, did he just say I love you? It's very cute, but it's very rare. Like, most men don't have those kind of friendships, and in their daily interactions, they're not getting touched. So that touch is really, really powerful, but you get to use it as your secret weapon. So if in any of these conversations that you're having during the week, and any of these flirtatious eye contact interactions, if you are wanting to accelerate, then you cap it off with a touch, with a casual, playful touch. How does that sound for you?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I can do all of those things.
Okay, you have 1 week. You've accepted the challenge. You have 1
I've
week.
accepted it.
We're going to
Yes.
work on your flirtation. I love the affirmations. And I think that is something that you should definitely continue to incorporate, but also to share with other people. And the clearer you can be too about who this person specifically is. I love everything that you said about how you want to feel in the relationship, but I'd love for you to play a little bit more in, like, if you were just blue skying it, what does this person do for a living? What how do they spend their vacation time or their time off? What does their world look like? What does their family structure look like? Where did they grow up? Did they go to college? If so, like, what did they study? Like, literally write out a narrative of this
Mhm.
person that right now is fiction, but that you are calling into your life. And I have this visualization in my program that I do with my clients, where we put ourselves 6 months into the future, where this person has already come into our lives, and we write out a narrative of that ideal day, that one day with that person in our lives, and how that looks and how that feels. And it is astounding to me. I mean, not to me because I use this, I do this strategy often, and I really believe in all the mind, body, spirit work that you do. I I have seen unbelievable transformations for people just from creating that visualization, taking it from just the internal of how you want to feel into what is it going to look like and what is it going to feel like for that person as well. So that would be like the next step for you, Staci. If your mission, should you choose to accept it, the next thing would be to really write out, we call it a living vision, to write out that living vision.
I love both those things. Yeah. So flirt for this week, figure out ways to flirt and do it. And then write that narrative of this relationship in 6 months and get real specific with it.
Yeah, I'm not going to force you back on the apps, but I do find it is our most powerful tool. And I wonder if in doing the rest of this work, how it might then impact your experience on the apps. And especially using some of the messaging strategies where we're really going for connection. We're not just small talking it until we get to the date, but we're really like, how do I create connection, and let the rest fall away? Because it's not about volume. It's not a popularity contest, as you know. It's really about who is right for me and who can I share that kind of connection with. So, how do you feel right now, Staci?
I feel intrigued. I know I was going for peaceful and inspired, but I feel intrigued of like, hey, let's try this flirting thing. Let's just put myself a lot out there. And then I feel a little bit like excited to write the narrative, to take that affirmation kind of next level. That I find exciting. So maybe we can put that under inspiring.
I love that. I love that. I haven't heard intrigued lately, so that's one of my favorite words. I like that. And to me, yeah, that is inspired. That does, it gives inspired, because what I love to do is to just ignite that spark in someone and then get you into action. I think we can get lost sometimes in the internal work, and it's all really valuable, but it doesn't solidify until we then put into action out in the world. So that's what I'm excited by. I feel inspired by you and how much you opened up to this experience and how much you shared about your own story. And I know I made you go there, Staci. I made you go there with sharing your affirmation, but it was such a beautiful offering for you to share with everyone here, and to also then put out into the world, so that you are co-creating that relationship with the universe, and it can be brought to you through action, through clarity, and also through the willingness to show up differently in your dating life. So thank you so much for being here, Staci.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a treat.
It was a treat for me being able to share with you how I work. And each client is different. I meet you where you're at. And as Staci said, it's a little bit of tough love to get you to stretch beyond your comfort zone. But your comfort zone is where things stay stagnant. Change all takes place just outside of that. Sometimes those feelings of discomfort are actually the feelings of change happening. So thank you to Staci for opening up to this experience. And thanks to all of you for taking this journey with us. Try out some of the exercises I recommended to Staci. And if you think you're ready for your own transformation, there are 2 ways that we can help you. First, I have, for those of you who are self-motivated, who like to do things on their own schedule, maybe you're really busy, but you really want to date differently. You want a roadmap to find your person before the end of the year. This is where the Dating Accelerator program can help you. This is my signature online program. It's self-guided, self-led. It has 10 different modules all about the dating loops and how to fix them. It has a workbook where you can chart your specific path to success, and it delivers all of these modules in 3 different formats tailored to the way that you learn best: video, audio, or in the written form. All of that is for you at damonahoffman.com/program. And here's the best part. For listeners of this podcast, I'm going to do a little something special for you. I'm adding a 10% discount if you put in the code podcast10 at checkout. That's my signature program that's worked for so many of my clients over the past 17 plus years that I have been coaching singles on online and offline dating. It's the whole shebang. It's the dating accelerator, and it will accelerate you into the relationship that you want to be in before the end of the year. That's damonahoffman.com/program and put in that code podcast10 for 10% off. Now, the second way that I can help you, if you're like, Damona, I'm just not a self-led DIY kind of person. I'm more of an all hands on deck, full court press, do it for me because I don't even know where to begin kind of person. I got you covered as well. We are offering 2 spots in our VIP coaching program. This is the one-on-one experience. This is where you have me and Yogi Marquise, my head of coaching programs. You have Coach Stephanie, the stylist, my entire Dates and Mates team behind you to guide you towards success in dating. But there are only 2 spots left in this program this calendar year. So it's just for those highly, highly motivated people who really want a holding hand through this entire dating process. If you'd like to see if this option is a good fit for you, you can sign up for a call with Yogi Marquise at damonahoffman.com/intro call. Again, that's damonahoffman.com/intro call. Again, that's damonahoffman.com/intro call. So if you're one of the people that's like, Damona, I love all the content that you're doing here on Dates and Mates. I love what you're doing on Instagram and TikTok, but I need more. I need you to support me through this journey of finding love. Don't worry, I've got you covered. Those 2 links are there for you in the show notes. And if you have feedback or questions for a future episode, you can always reach out to me on the socials at Damona Hoffman or reach me through the contact button on my website, datesandmates.com. Or give me a call or a text at 424-246-6255. We're trying to make it easy for you to get in touch with me because I want to hear what's going on in your dating life. And I want to help you transform. I hope you enjoyed episode 526 of Dates and Mates. I wish you happy dating.